whispers of pain, welcomes you. Laura Davenport's bruises always healed just before Sunday service. That was Michael's rule. He would drive them to the white-steepled church outside St. Louis, greet the pastor with that salesman's smile, and rest a proprietary hand on Laura's waist while everyone complimented them on being such a model couple. By Monday, the sermon's warmth had cooled, and the next discipline, a shove, a slap, a whispered threat, waited behind their front door like unpaid debt. The first time Laura dialed 911, her thumb trembled so hard, she missed the 9 on the keypad. Michael had just slammed her head into the kitchen cabinet for letting dinner get cold. When the officers arrived, he stood barefoot on the marble tiles, hair still damp from his shower, and said in a neighborly drawl, "My wife suffers from panic spells. She gets confused." The younger cop looked at Laura's swelling cheek, but saw only the silk robe she'd managed to tie around the bruise blooming on her shoulder. The older one exchanged a glance with Michael. Men of an age, men who understood each other. "Ma'am," he said, softening his tone, "do you want to press charges?" Michael's eyes drilled the answer into her. Laura shook her head. No report was filed. After the squad car taillights vanished, Michael kissed her gently where the bruise would rise. "See? Even the law thinks you're hysterical." Months blurred into rehearsed apologies. The broken wrist she explained away as a fall on wet pavement. The blue marks she painted over with foundation before parent-teacher conferences. Michael controlled every account, checking, credit, even the grocery card that beeped red if she bought something he hadn't pre-approved. At night he kept her phone locked in his desk drawer for safekeeping, a drawer that clicked shut like a cell door. The second 911 call came from their 9-year-old son, Eli. He hid in the pantry while Michael's belt snapped through the hall. The dispatcher traced the address. Officers forced the door. Michael switched from rage to reason before the handcuffs left the cruiser. "My wife and boy are frightened of thunderstorms," he said, guiding the police through the spotless foyer. Laura, dizzy from a concussion, tried to speak but tasted metal. Eli sobbed that Dad had hurt Mom. "Kids imagine things," Michael laughed. "I raised my voice, sure, but who wouldn't in this economy?" No arrest, no report. One officer even apologized for the inconvenience. Laura's private rebellion began with a single paperclip. Snuck from Michael's desk to pick the lock on the drawer each morning while he jogged. She reclaimed her phone for 10 hidden minutes a day. On a battered women's form, she found the number for Willow Haven Shelter and memorized it, like a scripture. A counselor named Jessa answered after one ring. "We believe you," Jessa said. "When you're ready, come." Belief felt like intravenous light, but Michael sensed shifts the way sharks scent blood. He installed cameras inside the house for security. Every room except the bathroom watched her. At night he replayed the footage, freezing frames where she lingered near a window, accusing her of plotting escape. The next punishment was silent. He locked her outside in February, barefoot on icy concrete, until her toes went numb and her apology slurred into fog. The next morning, Laura limped to Eli's bus and saw the driver's startled eyes drop to her purple feet. Shame became fuel. That afternoon, she pressed record on her phone, slid it beneath the sofa cushion, and provoked Michael with the simplest weapon: truth. "You hurt me," she said plainly. He laughed, then listed every way the court would still side with him: his business connections, his lawyer golf buddies, the crazy wife narrative implemented long ago. When he finished, the phone had captured 6 minutes of threats. 2 nights later, Michael left for a conference in Chicago. Laura had 48 hours. She packed a duffel for herself and Eli, cleared the sole joint account she could access, 312, and called a rideshare to a location the driver knew only as Midnight Diner. Willow Haven volunteers waited in a van with paper cups of cocoa. Eli slept across Laura's lap as the city lights receded. Jessa greeted them at the shelter, a converted brick schoolhouse with bolted windows and a hallway that smelled of lavender detergent. For the first time in years, Laura slept without calculating Michael's footsteps in the dark. Morning brought paperwork, counseling, and the terrifying relief of choices. Jessa's nonprofit connected her to legal aid attorney Samira Chaudhry, who specialized in intimate partner cases. Samira listened to the audio recording, eyes flashing. "This is admissible," she said. "It's not everything, but it's something the court can't ignore." Michael discovered the empty house before dawn. 30 furious voicemails hit Laura's phone, escalating from coaxing to curses. Samira advised silence. They filed for an emergency protective order. At the courthouse, Laura stood behind a podium that smelled of old varnish, reading her affidavit, while Michael's attorney, gray suit, silver cufflinks, objected to every sentence. The judge, a solemn woman with half-moon glasses, granted a temporary order. Michael must stay 100 yards away and surrender firearms. A small crack in his armor, but a crack. What followed was a siege of paperwork. Michael retained a high-profile family lawyer who filed motion after motion. Allegations of parental alienation, claims that Laura was mentally unstable, petitions for immediate custody. He hired a private investigator who photographed Laura walking Eli to a public playground and tried to spin it as violating the protective order by parading the child past the father's business, 2 miles away. Legal aid resources strained under the barrage, but Samira countered each filing, stacking medical records, 911 logs, and statements from neighbors who had heard late-night screams. The custody hearing loomed like a tidal wave. Michael arrived in a tailored Navy suit, flanked by 2 attorneys and a media consultant who whispered headlines about false abuse claims. Laura wore a borrowed blazer and nerve-ending fear. The courtroom benches were half-filled with Michael's colleagues, silent intimidation in expensive ties. Michael's attorney painted Laura as emotionally volatile, possibly substance-dependent, waving printouts of her forum posts about anxiety. He presented photos of their immaculate home, video of Michael coaching Eli's soccer team, bank statements showing Laura had withdrawn marital funds to finance her disappearance. When Laura's side objected, the attorney smirked and said, "Facts are inconvenient, counselor." Then Samira called Laura to the stand. Laura's voice shook, but her story landed blow after blow. The concussion, the ice punishment, the locked drawer. Samira played the 6-minute recording. Michael's threats filled the wooden chamber, his tone dripping with contempt. "No judge will believe a pill-popping housewife." Gasps rippled through the room. Michael's face drained. Next, Samira introduced Dr. Patel, the ER physician who treated Laura's wrist. He testified that Laura initially claimed she'd fallen, but later whispered, "He did this." Medical photos of bruises, dated and catalogued, projected onto a screen like crime scene evidence. Finally, Samira called a surprise witness. Angela Crane, Michael's ex-girlfriend from college, who had flown in from Denver after reading a social media plea circulated by Willow Haven. Angela held a decade-old restraining order, stamped with Michael's name. Same pattern, different woman. The judge's pen paused mid-note. Michael's counsel objected, citing relevance. The judge overruled. Patterns of behavior are highly relevant. Cross-examination turned desperate. Michael's attorney badgered Angela about her distant past, insinuating jealousy. She replied calmly, "I have a life. I flew here so the court would know Laura isn't the first." Samira's closing argument was a quiet dagger. Abuse hides behind wealth, charisma, and the benefit of the doubt. The system often kneels to whoever can write the bigger check. Today, you've heard a different currency: fear measured in hospital bills, nights in shelters, and a child's 911 call. Justice cannot depend on income brackets. The judge requested a recess. 43 minutes later, court resumed. "In the matter of Davenport versus Davenport," she began, "the court finds credible evidence of ongoing domestic violence." She granted Laura full physical and legal custody of Eli, a permanent protective order, and exclusive occupancy of the marital residence pending asset division. Michael was ordered to attend a year-long batterer intervention program and submit to monitored visitation at a supervised facility at his expense. Violation of any term would trigger immediate arrest. Michael's attorney whispered protests. Michael stared at the floor as if the seal on his invincibility had finally broken. When the gavel struck, the sound echoed like a door locking behind him instead of her. Outside, reporters swarmed. Samira shielded Laura and Eli, guiding them to the parking lot where Jessa waited. Laura exhaled, the first breath in years not rationed for survival. Weeks later, Laura stood in her old kitchen, now hers alone, painting over the hairline crack where Michael had slammed her head. Eli sat at the table, scribbling a Mother's Day card that read, "I feel safe." The radio murmured soft jazz, and every note seemed to say, "You made it." Samira called that afternoon. The county prosecutor, buoyed by the civil ruling, had filed criminal charges: assault in the second degree, endangering the welfare of a child. "He'll face trial," Samira said. "This time, the state fights with you." Laura pressed a palm to the cool glass of the patio door, watching robins stitch twigs into a nest above the gutter. For the first time, the house felt capable of holding peace. Justice had not erased the scars on her body or the shadows in Eli's drawings, but it had done something almost as hard. It had listened to a woman the system tried to render voiceless and replied, "We hear you." And that, she thought, is the beginning of everything. Whispers of pain, "Thanks you for listening,"